And look, moving on to our third team here in most improved college football teams of 2024. We're gonna go to the UCF, right? Down to the Big 12 again. UCF is a team that we've been high on for the past year or so. Had some nice momentum on the recruiting trail. You saw some of that come to fruition a year ago, right? That momentum carried over last year, going 6-6. Yes, not ideal, but also pretty darn good moving from the American to the Big 12, right? Having to play some real good teams in last year's Big 12. And now you get a pretty manageable schedule. You pair that with the fact that we love Gus Malzahn and we love what they brought in with their transfer classes, and their overall win totals up at 7.5. Right, Vegas is predicting at least a game and a half improvement there, and we see a little bit more maybe. What say you?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, KJ Jefferson. I mean, dude, we have seen KJ Jefferson produce at a high level in the SEC, like an insanely high level. Like this dude, I mean, last year was he favored to win SEC Offensive Player of the Year? He was up there for sure,
Yeah, he absolutely was.
certainly. And he's and RJ Harvey is coming back and running back, I believe. He was an absolute monster last year. Sure, you lose Javon Baker at wide receiver, who, by the way, was an absolute stud. But Kobe Hudson's pretty good himself. Sure, you don't have John Reese Plumlee is a legend. Okay. And Gus Malzahn loves his John Reese Plumlee athletes at quarterback just running up. But KJ Jefferson, don't you think that him and Gus Malzahn are kind of a match made in heaven?
It really was. I mean, KJ Jefferson had options to go a lot of places last year in the offseason, and he obviously picked out this one. And obviously, Gus Malzahn is a perfect marriage. Those two guys fit each other so well, what they like, what they dislike. And obviously, we've seen Malzahn have success with very athletic, dual threat quarterbacks, and that's exactly why he wanted to join this offense.
Yeah, absolutely. And you lose a couple pieces on the offensive line from what I'm looking at right here. Yeah, I mean, when you look at their Bill Connolly's SP plus returning production, I believe has them at like 100th in returning production. But I think a lot of that baked in there is those two offensive line snaps, Javon Baker and John Reese Plumlee. Because I don't know, because if it counts KJ Jefferson, like last year, KJ Jefferson was not very effective.
He didn't. He didn't.
So
He didn't. He was hurt too, wasn't he, for a good bit?
yeah, so like I don't know. I don't know, man. I think this is we put them on this list for a reason. I think they're sneaky. Again, their over under win total is 7.5, and only their second year in the Big 12. It's higher than any other the four new Big 12 teams. Now, sorry, I say four new Big 12 teams from last year. I guess you're looking at Arizona, Arizona State, Utah, and Colorado. Of course, a lot of those teams have higher win totals than them. But yeah, I'll look at the schedule, man. And once again, I think a lot of these Big 12 schedules, for some reason, are pretty manageable. You know, uh, the issue is they play Florida at Florida. That is going to be a tough game. Of course, like you go to the swamp. Anytime you go to the swamp, you might be asking for trouble, right? However, New Hampshire, Sam Houston, sure, and you're out of conference. TCU, start of the season, I think that's a winnable game. Colorado, you draw Cincinnati, you draw BYU, you draw Arizona State. I don't know. It's manageable. I'm not going to say it's going to go over. I'm not going to say it's going to go under necessarily because you still got to see. I mean, let spring ball play out, see what you got going there. But yeah, this is certainly a team that could be a candidate for a large improvement. Is it going to be 9 wins? I don't. I would lean towards no. But I think the Big 12 just has so many question marks. Like a team like UCF is talented enough to take that step and win some of those games that maybe you wouldn't have thought of. Uh, maybe you wouldn't have thought they'd win.
Well, that's just the thing. You mentioned a lot of teams in the Big 12 have manageable schedules, but it's also like a lot of teams are very on similar playing fields, whether that's talent wise and just stylistic matchups and all this stuff. But here's the thing: I'm going to trust a team and a coach I believe in who's played in a ton of close games. Gus Malzahn. Secondly, a quarterback that's played in a ton of close games in KJ Jefferson. But also, you can run the football. If you can run the football, you're going to have a real good chance to close out games and to really grind out fourth quarters and teams in the Big 12. And with Jefferson and RJ Harvey, those guys are about as good of a duo as there is in college football. And I, to me, with some of the beef on the O line you have there as well, I really like this. And you're sprinkling in some portal guys on defense and seeing if that helps as well. I love it. I think this could be a darn good team in the Big 12. And again, like we talked about with Texas Tech, is they're doing it right. They're starting to recruit really, really well, especially in the states of Florida and Georgia, right where they are located down there, down in the southeast. I like it for them. UCF's a team on the rise, and obviously, like you said, we don't know exactly what the record's going to be. But if there's candidates that are going to have most improved written all over them from a year ago, I think UCF's absolutely there. And teams that benefit from Texas and Oklahoma leaving the Big 12, obviously everyone, right? Obviously, you see those guys off the schedule. That's nice to see. But to me, UCF is one of the teams that really, really benefits because they can now take a step forward into, right, some of the more talented teams in the Big 12.
Yeah, something that I do have a concern with though is did they address their problems in the run defense enough in the transfer portal? It's hard. Like you don't get Walter Nolan's in the transfer portal every day, right? Like it is hard to fix your run defense overnight. It really is. Now you got some linebacker transfers coming in there. Can they do something to help with this run game? I don't know. I don't know if it's going to be enough. Fortunately, you don't draw Oklahoma State on your schedule. Now there are some other teams on this schedule that have run the ball pretty effectively these last couple of years. I mean, Utah is one. West Virginia certainly is going to be one. Arizona State ran the ball pretty well last year. Iowa State ran the ball well towards the end of the season in some games, right? In some games. Cincinnati felt like they relied on their run game a lot. So it'll be interesting to see. Like, if you can't plug those holes, you might find yourself losing some of these games that you should.
Absolutely.